Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching the Breakfast News with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with this morning's headlines. Home Minister Rajnath Singh reaches out to minorities but rallies against conversions. Vice President Mohammad Ansari meanwhile says freedom to change one's religion or belief was a fundamental right. India and China start 18th round of border talks in Delhi. Both sides focus on clarifying the line of actual control. Mufti Muhammad Sayeed promises to initiate the process of scrapping ASPA from Jammu and Kashmir but insists that his government won't jump the gun. And Yemen seeks the help of Arab states and the UN in fighting Houthi militants headed for the seat of power in Aden. The UN warns the country could be headed towards a civil war. Home Minister Rajnath Singh reached out to minorities on Monday saying he had no issues with the pace of growth of Muslims in the country, but he also rallied against religious conversions and asked minorities to take the lead in pressing for an anti-conversion law. Meanwhile, Vice President Mohammad Ansari had said that the freedom to change one's religion or belief is a fundamental right and asserted that no religion should be given an official status.
In comments that run counter to the line often used by hardline Hindutva elements, the Home Minister reached out to the Muslim population saying it did not matter how many Muslims there were or whether their population was on the rise. Rajnath Singh said his government did not have any problems with Muslims' growth but was against the cycle of conversions.
Minorities के मन के अंदर भी एक सेंस ऑफ सिक्योरिटी पैदा करने के लिए जिस हद तक हमको जाना होगा हम उस हद तक जाने को सदैव तैयार रहेंगे। हम आपको यह यकीन दिलाना चाहते हैं। इस मुद्दे पर मेरे इंटेंशन पर कोई सवालिया निशान नहीं लगा सकता।
The Home Minister's remarks come at a time when his party has been surrounded by controversies over comments made by some Hindutva hardliners. Singh also blamed the previous Congress government for creating an atmosphere of insecurity among minorities and said the Narendra Modi government was reversing this.
देश के माइनॉरिटीज यानी अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय की देशभक्ति के ऊपर सवालिया निशान नहीं लगाया जा सकता है। या आज से नहीं, बहुत पहले से ही मैं बराबर ये कहता रहता हूं। लेकिन ये धर्मांतरण, घर वापसी, इन सब सारी चीजों को लेकर भी तरह तरह की चर्चाएं चलती रहती हैं, तरह तरह की गलतफहमियां पैदा होती हैं। मैं इस संबंध में यह कहना चाहता हूं, यदि इसके कारण गलतफहमियां पैदा होती हैं तो क्या हम इसके बारे में विचार नहीं कर सकते कि इसका समाधान क्या हो सकता है?
Meanwhile, Vice President Mohammad Ansari had a different take on conversions. He said the freedom to change one's religion or belief was a fundamental right. Asserting that no religion should be given an official status, the Vice President lauded the Indian approach of secularism, which in his own words did not erect a wall of separation of religion and state but proposed a principled distance between them.
Religion in statecraft has been used for different purposes and objectives. As an instrument of regime legitimacy, for justifying the status quo in terms of policies and postures, for a politically mobilizing role to articulate dissent.
The remarks of both leaders come at a time when the issue of conversions is in the limelight. Attacks on minorities and their institutions have also increased in the past few weeks. The need of the hour is clearly an increase in religious tolerance and secular ideals. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, India and China held the 18th round of talks on Monday to resolve their long-standing border dispute. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who is also the special representative on the boundary question, held talks with his Chinese counterpart Yang Jiechi in New Delhi. The two-day dialogue aims to fix the dispute over the 3,500-kilometer border line that's not clearly demarcated. It also holds significance as it is the first since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power in May last year. The fresh round of talks comes just days ahead of Modi's first visit to China. Last month, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj visited China to prepare for the Prime Minister's visit and spoke about the need for an out-of-the-box solution on the border issue. She said it cannot be left for future generations. Meanwhile, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs General V.K. Singh attended Pakistani Ambassador Abdul Basid's dinner yesterday to celebrate Pakistan Day. The guest list had, among others, Congress leader Manishankar Iyer and 7 separatist leaders, including Hurriyat Conference Chairman Mirwaiz Umar Farooq. The dinner came on a day when the Indian government said it won't entertain third party in issues relating to Indo-Pak relations. Here's more.
Hours after a meeting between Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basid and separatist Hurriyat leaders in Delhi, the Indian government reiterated its stand that there is no place for a third party in Indo-Pak ties. Syed Akbaruddin, the spokesperson with the Ministry of External Affairs, told the media there is no scope for misunderstanding India's position on the role of Hurriyat Conference.
Let me reiterate, there are only 2 parties and there is no place for a third party in resolution of India-Pakistan issues.
Akbaruddin's statement was a response to Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basid, who said early on Monday that India wasn't against him inviting the Kashmiri separatist leaders.
No, I don't think Indian government is objecting. I would rather suggest to my media friends not to make an issue out of a non-issue. We're looking forward to more meetings between our 2 countries, and because the objective is to achieve peace between our 2 countries, resolve our problems, and one hopes that both the countries will now move forward. The time has come to resolve our problems and issues.
Separatist leaders too justified their meeting with the Pak High Commissioner.
I believe that the mindset has to change, that you have to understand the fact that Hurriyat or the people of Kashmir we are not hindering anything. We want to cooperate, we want to strengthen the process, and you have to give an opportunity to that. I mean, the whole idea behind meeting people, whether from Delhi or Islamabad, is to re-engage, is to start talking.
The meeting also evoked criticism and protests in some parts of the country.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, डिफेंस मिनिस्टर हो, विदेश मंत्री हो, सभी ने दिल्ली में जो पाकिस्तान के हाई कमिश्नर है उनको बुला के बहुत स्टूडेंट एक्शन लेने की बात करनी चाहिए. ये तो हमारे देश के खिलाफ एक साजिश होती है. फिर
It is Pakistan Day or any other day, Pakistan is hell bent upon using terror, terrorists and separatists as an instrument of state policy against India.
Last year, similar talks between Basid and Hurriyat leaders prompted India to call off Foreign Secretary level talks with Pakistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Chief Minister Mufti Muhammad Sayeed on Monday said that his government will initiate the process of scrapping the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Although he insisted that the government will not jump the gun and call for revoking AFSPA in one go, instead push for a phased and gradual revocation of the act after taking the army on board. The remarks come 2 days after twin terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir killed 3 security personnel. Mufti Muhammad Sayeed blamed the attacks on non-state actors and said if Pakistan wanted peace with India, they must rein in the extremists. The Chief Minister said that he held the belief that all issues could only be solved with talks and not with bullets.
मैं ये कह रहा हूं, उनके भी कुछ खदशात हैं आर्मी के, तो मैं ये कहता हूं मैं एकदम जंप नहीं करूंगा. आई विल नॉट जंप. वी विल सी जिस हद तक हम सोच समझ के कुछ रास्ता निकालेंगे, कुछ एरियाज को डिनोटिफाइड करेंगे, और बाय ग्रेजुअल प्रोसेस. आई कांट डू इट वन गो, बट आई विल डू इट. आई विल डू इट. उनको कंसल्टेशन टेक देम ऑन बोर्ड.
Well, the Delhi Assembly will convene today for a 2-day session. The government will be tabling the vote on account for the first 3 months of the next financial year. The state government will seek around 9,000 crore rupees fund for the vote on account budget. Funds of up to 425 crore rupees will be set aside for continuing power and water subsidy. The full budget of the Aam Aadmi Party government will be presented in June. Amendments to Value Added Tax Act are also expected to be proposed by the government. The amendment to VAT will allow traders to carry forward their credit for successive financial years. Let's now bring you up to date with the news and events lined up for today in our segment The Day Ahead. The Uttarakhand unit of the Congress will start a 24-hour-long satyagraha in Delhi today to protest against the Modi government. The party is protesting against the centre's alleged neglect of the state in its development agenda. The venue of the protest has been shifted from outside the Prime Minister's residence to Jantar Mantar. The Supreme Court today will give its verdict on the constitutional validity of the controversial IT Act provision which directs jail for objectionable comments on social media. The bench is to deliver a judgment on whether it should be made an offence punishable by up to 3 years in jail. Petitioners have argued that Section 66A violated citizens' fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression. The government says it is meant to deter people from uploading grossly offensive material which can lead to lawlessness by inciting public anger and violence. The Emir of Qatar will arrive in India today for a 2-day visit. India will seek the Gulf nations' help to secure the release of 39 Indians kidnapped by Islamic State militants in Iraq, besides exploring ways to enhance trade ties. Qatar's Emir Thani will be meeting the Prime Minister in a restricted format as well as at the delegation level. He will also meet President Pranab Mukherjee, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Let's now bring you up to date with the other national news and updates in our segment Nationwide. The Supreme Court has given Sahara Group 3 months to submit a final proposal to raise funds. The court gave the time to Sahara for completing negotiations, failing which its properties would be put up for auction. The group needs to raise the 5,000 crore rupees cash component of the bail condition for the release of its chief and 2 group directors. The Supreme Court has asked a special task force to complete its investigation into the Vyapam scam by July 15th. The court turned down a plea to grant 6 months additional time for completing the probe. The Congress has demanded for a CBI probe against Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister for allegedly tampering with evidence to absolve himself. Maharashtra's Health Minister Deepak Sawant triggered a row by saying lesbians, gays, bisexuals and transgenders were in need of psychological treatment and counselling. The controversial remark came on Monday while the minister was responding to a query by a BJP member in the State Legislative Assembly. Actor Shashi Kapoor will be awarded the prestigious Dada Saheb Phalke Award for the year 2014. The 77-year-old actor is the third from his family to get the award after father Prithviraj Kapoor and elder brother Raj Kapoor. Shashi Kapoor, who has starred in over 100 Hindi films, has already been honoured with the Padma Bhushan in 2011. Well, it's time for a short break now, but coming up, the first semi-final of the Cricket World Cup is underway in Auckland, New Zealand. We'll get you an expert's look on the match thus far. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Tradition dating back centuries. A cultural heritage that inspires and warms at once. Magic that awes. Rajya Sabha television brings you events that embrace the wonders of India's classical arts. Conversations with the biggest names in the culture and music. Rajya Sabha Television, democracy at work.
Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira.
Barack Obama has been elected on the basis that I will no longer take America into wars, and in fact quite the opposite, I will pull America out of wars.
According to the Indian government, fishermen are not at fault.
The US intervention in Iraq set the stage for exacerbation of these conflicts and then the intervention in Syria.
Watch World Panorama at these times on Rajya Sabha television.
क्या हम दूसरों के जीवन को नियंत्रित करने की प्रवृत्ति के शिकार हो रहे हैं?
एक जो लाइन ड्रॉ किया जा रहा है वो क्लैश करती है इंडिविजुअल के लिबर्टीज के साथ, वो क्लैश करती है फ्रीडम ऑफ डिसेंट के साथ, वो क्लैश करती है फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन एंड स्पीच के साथ।
मुझे लगता है कि आपको समाज की तासीर और उसके कालखंड को भी समझना पड़ेगा कि किस कालखंड में हम जी रहे हैं।
आप अर्थ के स्तर पर, विकास के स्तर पर वो सारी चीजें चाहते हैं, लेकिन संस्कृति के सवाल पर आप 3000 4000 पीछे जाना चाहते हैं।
एक व्यवस्था से देश चलती है, एक व्यवस्था से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समाज चलती है, अराजकता से नहीं चलती।
तो ये तो बात शुरू से जाहिर है कि एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन कभी सरकार ने देश में दी है।
देखिए सरोकार सिर्फ राज्यसभा टेलीविजन पर।
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the first semi-final of the ICC Cricket World Cup is underway at the Eden Park in Auckland, New Zealand. South Africa won the toss and elected to bat first. The Africans were immediately under pressure with Trent Boult dismissing both openers, Amla and de Kock, early. Both teams have never reached the pinnacle in the 50-over tournament, and both captains believe that their time is now. South Africa's progress in the tournament has not been seamless, but they conquered a major demon in the quarter-final. New Zealand, on the other hand, are unbeaten and seem to be in sublime form. After a nervy start, the South Africans seem to have settled down with a steady partnership building between Faf du Plessis and Riley Rousseau. The score at present is 100 for the loss of 2 wickets, a steady partnership they are building between the two batsmen. Well, joining me for a chat today to talk about the match is senior sports journalist Jaideep. Jaideep, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Interesting match, of course, South Africa versus New Zealand. Both teams believe that their time is now. They have never really won the World Cup, but extremely crucial game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Knockout, one step away from the final. And given that none of the teams have ever played a final before, this is some sort of a last frontier or final frontier that they're going to cross. And it looked all hammer and tongs in the morning, and I think a little bit of nerves, obviously, from both sides. Couple of catches dropped, couple of streaky shots through the slips and all. But it seems like that now they're both settled down and they're, trying to play these middle moves like a chess match.
Yes.
And as a game of patience, and I think they're pretty on par right now as far as I can make out.
This is a high-pressure game. Who do you think is under more pressure? New Zealand playing at home, under home conditions, or South Africa, who've always had great teams but never really progressed too far in the tournament in the World Cup?
I think the pressure is pretty much even because while playing at home can have its added pressure, at the same time it can also be a tremendous boost, and New Zealand crowd has really backed their teams. It was looking a little slow when they started, but right now they're backing them to the hilt. And obviously the bowlers have done a great job. So the pressure currently may be a 5% hike in the pressure on South Africa. Otherwise, I think it's pretty even par.
A word on Trent Boult. He's, the highest wicket taker for New Zealand in World Cups ever. He's been in sublime form, hasn't he?
Yeah, the New Zealand bowling is, I think right now, on par with Australia, pretty much the best bowling. Boult has been in sensational form. Tim Southee has had a couple of great matches. They just flew in one guy to play just the semi-finals, Matt Henry, and he came out with 2 or 3, maidens at the top of the innings.
Yes.
So as an attack, I think this is one of the best, and Boult is really outstanding right now.
There are a couple of changes in the South African lineup as well. Philander comes in for Abbott. Do you think it's a good move? You have Philander in New Zealand conditions where he can swing the ball a little more?
Yes, I think so, because Philander has more experience than Abbott, obviously, and he is a controlled swing bowler, which might be a big difference, but depends entirely on how cold it is or isn't, because the ball does not swing that much if the weather is really cold.
Yes.
It's only when you have a little bit of humidity and atmospheric heat that the ball will actually swing, but still is a much more controlled bowler. So I guess, yeah, it's a good move for South Africa.
Would you say that this is the partnership for South Africa at the moment? Because if a wicket falls now, then your big hitters come in, AB de Villiers and Miller and Dumini and the others. So would this be the most crucial partnership for South Africa?
I would say this one and the next one, whoever comes in, I mean, given there's another wicket falling, this was very crucial because South Africa was beginning to lose their way. You know, they're going at a run rate of around 3.5 and not really getting the bowling away. So obviously they decided on plan B to settle down and, you know, carve the score instead of trying to hammer it the ground or ball out of the ground. And despite of being a small ground, Eden Park averages are around last 10 matches around 234 or something. So it's not a 350 ground.
Wicket, yes.
Yeah, it's a 280 is a very good score on this kind of a pitch.
You know, and as far as South Africa is concerned, the problem really for South Africa in this particular tournament is the form of Hashim Amla. Whenever Hashim Amla scores, South Africa go on to win, but his form has been, you know, questionable in this particular tournament, and the openers haven't really given them the start that they wanted. So is that a concern for South Africa? Maybe if they win this match, maybe are they going to change the lineup for the next match in the final?
If they win, I seriously doubt whether they'll change the lineup or not. But obviously the openers' form has been a little bit of a concern, and there's been a lot of pressure on AB de Villiers in the batting, which is where I think that New Zealand has the edge because their batsmen have come good. Either it's McCullum who starts attacking, or you saw what Martin Guptill did in the last match, or you go further down the order, you still have batsman Kane Williamson comes and scores.
Corey Anderson.
Corey Anderson comes and Trent, I mean the middle order is also very useful. So it's not like that they are dependent on one batsman, while South Africa seems to have a lot of emphasis on how de Villiers performs.
Yes.
So I guess today they are having a little bit of a better deal. But again, when it comes down to an attack, all-out attack, they'll have to fall back on that one man. And falling back on one man is not a good idea, especially at this level.
Indeed. All right, Jaideep, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for putting things into perspective for us as far as this match is concerned. Well, moving on now, the Paralympic Committee of India constituted a 3-member inquiry committee on Monday to investigate the reasons for mismanagement at the ongoing 15th National Para-Athletics Championships. The committee was formed after the Sports Ministry asked for a detailed report from the organizers for the appalling arrangements for athletes. The sportspersons participating in the tournament were in shock after being put up at unfurnished and unhygienic accommodations. The committee has been asked to submit its report by March 26th. PCI will soon share guidelines stipulating minimum standards that need to be maintained and facilities to be provided to athletes participating in national championships.
We will have to talk to the athletes. We will have to talk to the people who are in the organizing committee, that is the state unit and the national unit, and then we'll be able to, once we receive their inputs and their feedback, we'll be able to, with some certainty, indicate where all the lapses occurred and who is responsible for those lapses. We will give this report at the earliest.
It has to be taken into it has to be considered seriously that the future athletes should not happen, and the para players also has to be treated as a normal players who are getting all the facilities in the sports.
Moving on now, tennis player Sania Mirza became the world number 3 in doubles rankings, her career best thus far. This following her stupendous title win at the BNP Paribas Open with the Swiss great Martina Hingis. Sania is now at number 3 with 6,885 points behind Italians Roberto Vinci and Sara Irani, who share top spot with 7,640 points each. Sania expressed delight at her elevation and thanked fans for backing her. Moving on to some international news now, soldiers loyal to Yemeni President Abd Rabu Mansour Hadi are working hard to fend off Houthi militants headed for the seat of power in Aden. Yemen has appealed for help from the Arab states and the United Nations in fighting the rebels. Meanwhile, having captured another city in the last few days, Islamic State appears to be slowly strengthening its presence in Yemen now, raising alarm internationally. Here's more.
The power struggle in Yemen continues. After having established a power center in Sana'a,
Houthi fighters are making advances south of the country to Aden. Over the weekend, the Houthis seized the town of Taiz, the country's third largest city. Residents say the militants took over the city's military airport without much resistance. Struggling to thwart the intensifying attacks, Yemeni Foreign Minister Riyad Yassin has called on Gulf Arab states to intervene. He has also asked the United Nations and GCC to impose a no-fly zone after warplanes hit the presidential palace in Aden over the weekend. The UN warns that Yemen is on the brink of a civil war.
في الوقت الحاضر أي تدخل عاقل سيكون أقل تكلفة وسيؤدي إلى نتيجة طيبة ومرضية.
We continue to hope that we can present Yemen with all the assistance that it needs, and we remain to our word. We hope that this can be done peacefully, but if it's not done peacefully, certainly the countries of the region and their allies will take the necessary measures to protect the region from their aggression.
Any side that would want to push the country in either direction would be inviting a protracted conflict in the vein of an Iraq, Libya, Syria combined scenario.
The Houthi militants ousted President Mansour Hadi last month. He then fled to the southern port city of Aden, where he established a rival power base. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now take a look at some more international news and updates in our World Wrap. Officials have confirmed that the US will continue to spend about $4 billion a year to fund Afghanistan's military for the next 2 fiscal years. A White House official acknowledged that due to heavy attrition, Afghan forces were well below the 352,000 level, possibly at around 330,000 troops now. Officials also announced the resumption of regular high-level diplomatic and defense talks between Afghanistan and the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has apologized for his comments during last week's election that Arab voters are heading to the polls in droves. In a video clip posted on his Facebook page, Netanyahu said, "I know the things I said a few days ago hurt some citizens in Israel and Israeli Arab citizens. This was not my intention and I am sorry." Israeli Arabs make up around 20% of the country's population of over 8 million. Indonesian President Joko Widodo and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe have agreed on strengthening bilateral ties in defense and economy after bilateral talks in Tokyo. Japan and Indonesia signed multiple accords on defense cooperation and economic investment. Japan has pledged capacity building assistance for Indonesian forces as well as bilateral cooperation on peacekeeping missions, defense equipment, development and military information exchanges. Leaders from Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan have signed a cooperation deal over a giant Ethiopian hydroelectric dam on a tributary of the River Nile. The leaders said that the declaration of principles would pave the way for further diplomatic cooperation on the Grand Renaissance Dam, which has stirred fears of a regional resource conflict. At least 36 people were killed and 70 injured in north-central Peru after a bus swerved into another bus in a multiple-vehicle accident. The accident took place on Monday before dawn on the highway about 320 kilometers north of the capital, Lima. The incident is the country's most serious accident since October 2013, when 51 people were killed as a bus fell into a ravine. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.